think the US dollar is, in my view, it's like an anchor way to think about a lot of commodities because commodities and assets are priced with respect to dollars. I'm going to pull up the screenshot of the US dollar. Overall, look, it's a great indicator, right? When dollar strength is happening, usually it coincides with risk off. Dollar weakness usually corresponds with risk on. What are your thoughts on where the dollar is and where the dollar may be going?
The most widely traded crypto is the dollar. It's not Bitcoin, it's Tether. On a normal day, you click on volume and you see what's traded. Tether trades double the volume of Bitcoin. This is something I've enjoyed pointing out forever, certainly to hoping our politicians would see this. By the way, when you have a technology that's completely decentralized globally, organically adopts the dollar as its base layer, you probably shouldn't mess it up. And most of these crypto dollars, which is about $160 billion now. I remember when Tether was only 2 billion. Now it's about 112. And of course, it has other cryptos. Most of those are invested in US treasuries. Why? Because there's no better place on the planet than the US dollar as far as fiat currencies. What's happening now is the number 2 most widely held reserve currency next to the dollar is now gold. Partly because of what's happening with Z and Putin and unlimited friendship. So I wanted to start there for the dollar so people understand how I really got in the macro of cryptos and the technology and everything. But the other thing I want to point out is let's just look at the yen. It's unstoppable. We're like 161 right now. That's the lowest yen since 1986. I love that date because I started in the trading pits in 1988. So, and I remember I worked for Japanese firms. It's unstoppable because of U.S. interest rates are too high. Why are they so high? Partly because the exorbitant privilege, everything we want to call it. But the problem is also is what's been a complete correlation with the dollar is the U.S. stock market outperforming the world. You overlay the dollar versus the S&P 500 divided by the MSCI, they're tick for tick. So my point is, I don't think we're going to see dollar weakness stop the dollar from breaking into these other economies who have to support their currencies until we have something give that boosted up in the first place. That's the U.S. stock market. That's the lose-lose, and we're getting there now. The yen is unstoppable. Sure, there's going to be intervention, but we all know how that happens. Traders, hot money, just like wait for the invention to put their positions back on. So I look at it as compared to other fiat currencies, it's unstoppable until something breaks. Then there's gold. And I do want to point out that how I had to start with the foundation with the technology. And this is one thing I think a lot of some of the strategists I see who are not recognizing what's happening in this new market. And that's from a guy who I came from futures. And I remember futures just taking over from, I was in the trading pitch in Chicago and all the New Yorkers used to get upset when the futures would move markets, they move their treasury markets. And then we all saw what happened to ETFs. It's just a better way to transact. That's what's happening in cryptos in terms of tokenization. And the bottom line is they adopted the dollar as a base layer. So I look at the dollar as unstoppable. What's going to take the drop is something we all don't want. It's probably going to take, and if we do have a problem in like 9/11 and or things that when you downgrade the US debt or some kind of global attack, you know what happens to risk assets. So that's why I'm still tilting back towards gold.